Hey everyone, Brennan here from Texas, living in Sweden. I am a registered nurse who moved here exactly 3 years ago this month. And I want to talk about my biggest regrets moving to Sweden and am I going to move back to America? Let's get to it. So, if you've been following me for a while, you know that it has not been an easy ride moving to Sweden. It's been a lot of ups and downs, and I came here all by myself, so I really didn't have someone to kind of hold my hand and walk me through the whole process coming to Sweden. Although I have had quite a few people help me out and give me good pointers. I know even on this channel, I've met some amazing, cool people here in Sweden that have been very helpful to me in learning how to make my way through the Swedish system. But I do have some regrets, and I don't have time to cover them all. But I thought, let's talk about the three top regrets that if I could do things over again, this is some stuff that I would do. So let's talk about the first one. First off, it costs money to move to another country. And I moved here from America, so it's a completely different continent. And I know a lot of people that came here from Europe, and it's a lot easier for them moving from the European Union to Sweden. But for me, coming from America, it was really complicated. The first couple years I worked here, I pretty much was living off savings. The first year I couldn't work, I had to come here as a student. And so that meant I lived off savings then. And then I got my first job, and it wasn't as a nurse because I didn't have my license yet to practice here, which meant that I was having to just take kind of a much lower paying job, and it wasn't enough to get by month to month. So I ended up eating up my savings. So my biggest regret has to do with how I manage my savings. So when I first came to Sweden, I got really excited. I moved into my new apartment. It was in Helsingborg. And I thought, oh, this is a great apartment. I love where I'm at. And I furnished it. And I didn't go really crazy. I bought most of my stuff out of IKEA. But what ended up happening is then I ended up moving to another city. And I couldn't take everything with me. So I had to sell off some things. There was also a lot of surprises that came along the way. Like, for example, I have braces. So when I came to Sweden, I had to pay all over again. And that cost me like another just about $3,500 to start the whole process all over again. And then, of course, I didn't have access to healthcare. And so I had some teeth problems. They got a lot worse, and that ended up costing me a whole lot more money. Getting a driver's license cost me a lot of money because I had to go through all the training for that. Down payments for apartments. The system is very difficult to get into if you come from outside the European Union. So yeah, there was a lot of upfront cost, and it ate through a lot of my money. And on top of that, I had some investments and things of that nature that I lost a lot of money in because it was COVID-19 when I moved here. And so the economy tanked. So I lost that money. And yeah, so if I did it over again, what would I do? I would have been a little bit more careful with my money, and I would have actually tried to save up more money. I live in an apartment currently. I am in my third apartment. I've moved a couple times, and what I'm realizing is just as it was in America, I am not an apartment guy. I like to play my music loud. I want to play drums. I don't want to have to share walls with other people and listen to their noise. And so for me, I thrive best in a house environment where, I've got some privacy and, I can have a little garden, I can have some beehives, that sort of thing. So the apartment life is really not for me, but it was a good start. So for me, I think a better fit is actually living in a house. Now, the problem with that is in Sweden, it's very difficult to save up money for down payments for things. Even though I'm a nurse here and I'm making just about average income, a little bit over that, it is very, very difficult because now I'm having to kind of make up for the money that I use in my life savings and pay off some things, and then to try to come up with a down payment for a house out in the countryside in the forest or something like that. It's going to be really, really difficult. So what I really wish is a lot of the money that I had put into getting an apartment furnished, all that sort of thing, if I had saved it, then that would have been a nice down payment towards maybe a tiny little house out in the woods or something like that. It's just hard to know what's around the corner. If I were to make a recommendation to you all, make sure save lots of money before you come to Sweden, or if you're going to move anywhere, especially if you're changing continents. Regret number 2, moving to a bigger city. I wish I'd moved to a bigger city from the beginning. Now, I moved to Helsingborg when I first came here, which was like, I think at the time, the 9th biggest city. It was like 120,000 people or something like that. And I moved to Malmö, and then I recently, in the last month or two, got an apartment. As you can see from the video here, if you've watched my other videos, I have a new background. So I am currently living in Limhamn. So Limhamn used to be a separate little, like a fishing village, I guess, just outside of Malmö. It's really nice here. I'm the happiest I've ever been living here. If you even look at my places I've lived in America, throughout my entire life, I had to say, I am the happiest I've ever been in my life living here. So I'm basically, it's like a suburb of Malmö. I wasn't really happy in Malmö. It was cool because, I had my job there. I love my job. I work at a really cool place with some amazing people, and I'm learning a lot and really developing. But at the same time, I really wasn't thriving in that inner city Malmö type environment. You can see my videos about that. Yeah, so, but in the end, I'm glad I moved here because the job opportunities. So if I were to redo things over again, I would have come straight to Malmö and tried to get a job here. But the thing is, I did a lot of research, and a lot of the stuff that I was finding on was basically just online. And you try to talk to people, and they give you the information that they know. But yeah, even with all that, there was just a lot of details I was really missing. And so I thought the best thing for me was moving to Helsingborg, which is a smaller city. And the reason I chose it was because I knew people there. I knew no one in Malmö, so I was afraid to make that plunge. On top of that, they speak a dialect of Swedish here, which has a very unique accent, and I was scared to death. I thought, I'm already going to be learning Swedish. I don't want to be learning like another dialect. There's a lot of jokes here about Skånska, the dialect here. But in the end, I really shocked myself. I learned enough Swedish to get my first job working in home health in Helsingborg, and had a lot of patients that I took care of out in the country, and I did okay. It was tough, yeah. But I did it in 11 months. And now, 3 years later, I'm working in a hospital, and yeah, I do fine. Once in a while, I get a person who, they talk kind of unique. They may be missing some teeth. They may have some unique anatomy in their mouth, maybe had a stroke or some things like that. Plus, they're coming from out of the country, and they're a bit forgetful, hard of hearing. And then you got my accent. You add that all to the mix, and yeah, you're going to have changes here and there. But it's worked out just fine. And so I wish I would have pushed myself, challenged myself a little harder, moved to a bigger city right from the beginning because of the job opportunities. And then from there on, I could have moved out to somewhere else, and like here in Limhamn. So it would have been a good start, I think, if I would have just started there from the beginning. My third regret, now hear me out on this one. It's going to sound kind of strange, but I didn't complain enough. Something I've learned about living in Sweden, you kind of have to complain to get things done. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and it's one of those things, people are very independent, they take care of themselves, and if they need help, then the government kind of steps in. But networking is really important, and the only way you can really get things done, I've learned here in Sweden, is you really have to talk about your problems and complain, and then someone will say, hey, yeah, you're having this certain issue, well, why don't you try this? And so I was one of those people, I don't want to be a burden on anyone, I don't want to share all my problems with everybody else. But what it ultimately led to was I nearly got deported from Sweden about a year and a half ago because I was having some issues with my employer. And I kind of just kept most of it to myself. And then finally I said to someone I knew, who's a doctor and had moved here from outside the European Union, I said, my situation, I'm about to get deported in 4 weeks because my employer didn't do what they're supposed to do to get my licensing, my Arbetstillstånd, or work permit here. And he's like, oh, well, why don't you talk to these people? And then I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, they sponsor you if you're a healthcare worker. I'm like, I didn't know anything about that. Nobody's told me anything about it. I couldn't find it on the internet. I've looked for stuff like that. but I couldn't find anything that would work for me for coming outside the European Union as an American. And so he's like, yeah, email these people. And within like less than half a week, I had me a job and they sponsored me. I was like, I've been struggling all this time. So that's what I would say is you got to complain. It's like we say in English, the squeaky wheel gets oiled. So if you're having struggles here, you need to say something. Of course, don't be an annoying complainer. But I think that's one reason why things get better here in Sweden is I've been told that in culture, and correct me if I'm wrong in this video, but a lot of people I've met that are Swedish say that is kind of a Swedish way is you complain. People won't talk to each other. They're pretty private, but then they will complain together. So you'll be standing at the bus station and they won't say anything to each other, and then the bus doesn't arrive on time. And what do? They start complaining about, oh, the bus is always late, blah, 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 blah. And so, it's kind of like built into the culture here. And I think that's why so many things do work pretty good. It's not a perfect system. Sure, they've got their issues. But I think one of the reasons why things do work so good here is because people complain. Like I said, squeaky wheel gets oiled. And so, yeah, you kind of got to do that. You got to network, you got to talk to people. And it's a bit of a challenge here in a place like Sweden that is very introverted. But that's one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't just speak up enough and say, hey, I need help. Finally, am I moving back to America? Well, I've bought my ticket. I'm going to Texas, and I'm going to be seeing my family and everything here this weekend. My father passed away a few weeks ago, so perhaps y'all have seen the video about that. And it's been rough coming into the system here. Money's not super good here in Sweden, like say coming from America. However, I have no plans on leaving. I have to say I'm the healthiest and happiest I've been in my entire life. I'm really thriving well, and I'm really looking forward to what these future years have in store for me. So we'll just have to see what's around the corner. You never know. I will be going back home, like I said, to Texas. I'm going to see my mother and my brother and sister and some friends and that sort of nature. Kind of help my mom fix up some things since my father passed away. I will always have roots in America. I will always go back to visit. But for now, yeah, I'm planning on staying here. I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Sweden. Thank you all for your wonderful support. There have been a lot of people along this journey that have helped me come into this new life here in this new country and to adapt. And there have been a lot of people that have been very supportive during these difficult times, especially here lately with the passing away of my father. And so, yeah, thank you all. And I'd love to know in the comments, did you have a similar experience moving here to Sweden or somewhere else? And are there any regrets that you had that if you could do it over again, what would you do? Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day.